Welcome to an enlightening journey. This educational content offers challenging insights. Approach with an open mind. The link for the study guide can be found in the description. Subscribe to join the exploration. Let's dive in without wasting time. Reflective depth. Exploring self-reflection for personal growth and discovery. Chapter 1. Introduction. Despite its importance, self-reflection is a markedly rare practice in the modern world. The fast pace of life today does not give us many moments to be alone with our thoughts. After a long day at work, many people tend to find relief from their favorite television shows, and of course the ever-present internet provides endless distractions. In short, self-reflection has become a lost art. This is unfortunate because it is through careful contemplation of our thoughts and actions that we learn who we are, where we are, and where we want to be. Most of the great philosophers spent their lives in self-reflection, and leaders of the past and present commonly spend time in quiet contemplation. Self-reflection requires courage, as it is not always easy to face the truths that we may uncover. We may discover that we have been acting in detriment to ourselves, or that we hold beliefs that are not truly our own. In order to grow and change, we must actively pursue understanding of ourselves. Self-reflection is a journey, and like any journey, it requires that we take a first step. Self-reflection begins with a willingness to take a step back and think about the things that we have done and why we did them. Oftentimes, it is important to have a specific event or behavior in mind. For example, we might reflect on an argument that we had or a project that we undertook. It is good to reflect at a quiet time when we are not rushed and to sit with our thoughts for some time. In thinking about the event in question, we should consider all sides of the issue and not just our own. It is also important to be honest with ourselves, as it is only through honesty that we can achieve a true understanding. Writing is a useful tool in self-reflection, and in some cases, it might be a good idea to write about the event, weighing the pros and cons and trying to get to the heart of the matter. A written self-reflection is essentially an essay in that we have a thesis to defend, our actions, and the essay is meant to explain how and why we perform the thesis. An essay is often the process through which we come to a clearer understanding of the topic, and so it is with self-reflection. The power of self-reflection. Self-reflection in the context of personal growth and discovery is a powerful learning tool. It allows us to take a step back and look at ourselves, behavior, thoughts, and emotions, and further through this to create a deeper understanding of our experiences and the way in which we view the world. This, in turn, can be a practice which changes lives. It can lead to valuable insights which can be worked on, and it can lead to a greater sense of understanding of the complex systems which influence a person, leading to changes that are positive and life-affirming. Before we can begin to discuss self-reflection in the context of personal growth and discovery, we must come to an understanding of what exactly self-reflection is. The mind and the soul, being intangible, are difficult to quantify or define. In our context, we can think of self-reflection as any mental process which helps us gain an understanding of who we are, separating the person that we wish to be from the person that we are. It is also a process by which we can understand our needs, motivations, failings, and successes. It is an exercise at the core of our consciousness and is something which we do constantly throughout the day, but we seek to take the process further and into a deeper level of thought. The journey within. Have you ever really thought about the person that you are, and whether the person you are on the inside is who you want to present to the world? The concept of looking within and self-reflecting for personal growth and discovery can be a very complex and distressing topic for many, but is definitely worth the energy and effort to explore. The journey within is something that is ongoing and likely never-ending, as people are constantly growing and changing in response to the world around them. The journey of self-reflection can take many turns and twists and can vary significantly from person to person, depending on the wants, needs, and experiences that have shaped them. Self-reflection is in essence the quest to make the inner self and the outer self align, and in this quest, Many discover things about themselves that they never knew, from traits that had been forgotten to things that have been purposefully repressed. The journey within is something that comes naturally to some and is avoided by others. Jahouda, 1958, made note of the fact that those with positive psychological health show a preference for self-reflection and are more likely to have a better understanding of their internal motivations and desires. This suggests that the journey within is something that is easier for healthier individuals because they are more likely to have a clear understanding of themselves and be comfortable in their own skin. For those who are not comfortable with whom they are, or who do not understand their motivations, the journey within can be a painful and troubling experience. This is not to say that the end product, an increased understanding of self, is not a positive outcome, but rather the process of self-reflection and discovery can bring a lot of discomfort and distress. This is because people will often discover things about themselves that are unflattering or go against the ideals and values that they hold. An example of this could be discovering a greedy streak in a person who values generosity and giving to others. This may bring about cognitive dissonance, a discomfort caused by holding conflicting ideas or values, and may lead the person to repress that piece of themselves and avoid further self-reflection in that area. Embracing courage and curiosity. Just as self-reflection is an ongoing process, so too is the development of courage and curiosity. In order to reflect on our lives, we must first be willing to step back from them. A scary thought for those of us who fear the unknown. However, it is a small price to pay for wisdom, and curiosity is the key. Having the courage to really look at ourselves takes strength, and the implications of what we might find can be daunting. We must embrace our fears and be willing to experience the unease of stepping out of the status quo if we are ever to achieve true self-understanding. Step by step, it is a journey outside the comfort of what we know and feel, to the unsure footing of exploration, accepting that we may not like everything that we find. But unlike the flaunting banality of our quick-fix society, we gain very little by staying wrapped up in the safe and familiar. This is especially true of my own exploration into self-reflection. Having decided to quit a stable job with money and status, but little long-term reward, in order to seek personal fulfillment in a different career. The decision was made in the wake of realization that I was on a treadmill to nowhere, which was not fulfilling my own deeper needs. Although daunting and uncertain, self-reflection led me to the understanding and courage to act upon it. The journey into the unfamiliar is the essence of what has been stated, for to turn back in fear is to ignore what we have learned about ourselves and to stagnate. Chapter 2. Understanding Self-Exploration. In daily life, it is easy to remain non-reflective because life in general does not force us to self-examine. It is during times of failure or adversity that we are most motivated to take a closer look at who we are and the choices we have made. The process is easy as it requires no specific tools or preparation, just a clear idea of what it is we are trying to accomplish. Despite this, it is universally described as change being slow and hard, usually resulting in 2 steps forward and 1 step back. This evaluation is correct, but it is hard to see the progress as we are constantly bombarded with the same mistakes and issues we are trying to change. This book looks into such instances to guide the reader into what it is they are searching for. A situation occurred where a friend of mine was convinced that the entire concept of understanding one's self was useless and would lead to no changes in the self. This book acts as a counter-argument claiming the exact opposite, stating that change is the primary goal to self-exploration, and attempts to prove this through its many concepts and examples. Reflective Depths unveils the concept of self-exploration and its wide-ranging dynamics. The author draws explicit relevance to the process of self-exploration as the effort of trying to understand our own selves, rely on the confusing and disturbing understanding as our life situations, the effort to make sense of it all, and arrive at some settled state of mind about it. The author describes the nature of human beings in pulling things apart to see how they work. He claims that we do this because we feel that we should be able to control the things we have an interest in. This is relevant to self-exploration since the first thing we attempt to gain control over and understand is our own selves. Uncovering your core values. Once the importance of values has been realized, one can move on to the conduction of a values audit. This simply summarizes all the values one holds and the relative importance of each. Begin by brainstorming a list of values. Limit this to 10 values. Any more becomes too difficult to manage and means that not all values will reflect the top priority. Now, from the list of 10 values, eliminate 5 of them. Then do it again. The remaining 5 values are considered the most important to you. Now, take each value and write a paragraph on what that value means to you, how you fulfill that value, and whether there are any instances where you have failed to uphold that value. The values audit can be a time-consuming task, but is a very important step for anyone who wants to live a meaningful and fulfilling life. Core values are deeply ingrained beliefs that govern our lives. They are our guiding principles that direct our behavior and influence our emotions. Uncovering one's core values can be a difficult task. Many people find that the values they hold are different from the values they would like to hold. This dissonance between value types can cause great internal conflict and unhappiness. It is common for individuals to adapt the values of those around them, such as friends and family, with the impression that they should be in agreement with these values. Additionally, people often acquire values from situations that are no longer relevant. It is not until a person recognizes the importance of their core values that they are able to make necessary changes in their lives. Personal fulfillment and happiness can be directly tied to living in a way that is congruent with one's values. This is why identifying and living in accordance with one's values is crucial for everyone. Examining beliefs and assumptions. Beliefs are the filters by which we give meaning to data and events. Beliefs can be feelings, evaluations, or attitudes about something. Beliefs are often very subjective and are only true to the person who has them. An assumption is a belief about what would happen in the future. In other words, it is a prediction. Usually, assumptions are concerned with taking action in order to bring about a change. We see the usefulness of understanding methods of examining and possibly changing beliefs and assumptions that no longer serve us or work against our best interests. Often, we do not test our assumptions and they can become beliefs. If a person is convinced that he will fail in a certain situation, this will affect his behavior in such a way as to increase the likelihood of failure. If he takes his increased failure as evidence that he is not competent in the area, his assumption may well become a belief. This cycle can be reinforcing and self-perpetuating. This could be true in the case of a phobia. A person who is afraid of spiders may avoid them whenever possible. If he runs into a spider, he may experience fear and anxiety. This could strengthen his belief that spiders are dangerous. His increased belief in the danger of spiders might lead to a stronger phobic reaction. Because of this self-perpetuating nature, early work in examining beliefs and assumptions is valuable. This is especially true if they concern a current problem or emotional disturbance. Since changes are often hard to make, and there is a tendency to select evidence that supports our current beliefs, it is often useful to plan out changes to beliefs and to test new assumptions in a purposeful way. Confronting fears and insecurities. A good way to confront fears or insecurities of any kind is to examine what it was that originally caused the fear. Find proof from past experiences or those of others that the fear is irrational. This is easier said than done, and the solution to many deep-seated issues may not come for a long time, but at least you are working towards something that will help you. The first thing people need to do is be honest with themselves and recognize when they are feeling insecure. If you can identify a situation or event that triggered the feeling, try and pinpoint exactly what it was that made you feel insecure. What about your beliefs or assumptions about ability, success, your appearance, etc. are causing this feeling? Are you comparing yourself to someone else? Do you feel you are being pressured into doing something you don't really want to do? Trying to get a clear understanding of why you are feeling the way you are is a good way to bring these issues into your conscious mind, where you can dissect them and deal with them in a rational manner. Often, you will find that the reasons behind the insecurities are not as rational as the emotions themselves. This doesn't make them any easier to deal with, but at least you can try and stop something happening again in the future. Many of us have insecurities that hinder us from doing the things we want to do, those things we feel we must do for a fulfilled, happy life. People feel the emotion of insecurity many times in life and must get past it to reach their goals. People experience insecurity around many issues, wasting time and not achieving what one could, a perceived lack of ability in something, previous failures at a particular task, appearances, or social acceptance. As you can see, it is a broad-ranging issue that many people must deal with throughout life, if one can even say they successfully free themselves from all insecurities. Chapter 3. Navigating the Inner World. Having a lot of automatic negative thoughts and being unaware of them is a major cause of depression. Automatic thoughts occur in everyday situations, and they are thoughts that are directly a result of an event as opposed to a long-term attitude. This event can be losing your key, or it can be someone criticizing you. With enough thoughts of similar nature, this can result in the formation of a belief. For example, continually forgetting things can lead to a belief that you are useless and a failure. At this point, your mood is directly affected by your thoughts. Any increase in sadness or decrease in mood is considered the negative thought has taken effect on your emotion. An example of a negative thought can be, "I failed in everything I've ever done," and the corresponding emotion could be feeling miserable. Measures to find out what automatic thoughts you are having and evaluating whether they are true or whether they are making you feel worse is the basis of cognitive therapy. By challenging these thoughts, you will be able to prevent them from recurring and affecting your mood. A good exercise to understanding thoughts and emotions is to write down what thoughts you have during the day. After doing this exercise for a full day, you may be very surprised how much you are really thinking about. If at any point you feel upset or happy, you can note what thoughts you had at that moment to understand what has led to your change in mood. Thinking takes place all the time. Sometimes we are thinking in different languages, but the amount of thoughts we have can be quite overwhelming. Our thought process can affect our mood in this moment. Thinking positive thoughts will most likely put us in a good mood, and thinking negative thoughts can put us in a bad mood. Awareness of what we are thinking is the first step in understanding our thought process. The inner world consists of our thoughts, our deepest emotions, and our perception of events that occur in our life. Our conscious thoughts are our streams of thoughts that we constantly have to help us process information. Our unconscious thoughts are our memories and our emotions. Memories are a sequence of thought or image that is linked to our past, and emotions are feelings towards certain events and thoughts. Reflective depths. Navigating the inner world. Exploring thoughts and emotions. The first step in the process of self-awareness is to look at the traits that the special people in our lives have. When we see someone who has a positive or negative effect on our lives, we see things in their personality that prompt us to label that person with traits that they have. For example, if someone is generous and caring to you, you might classify him as a good-hearted person. This way of thinking helps us understand who someone is and how they affect us. It is a little more difficult when analyzing the traits of ourselves. A technique that many psychologists use for analyzing this is called the self-monitoring strategy. This strategy involves paying attention to our behavior and finding out what causes that behavior. By using this reverse cause and effect thinking, we can dig into our minds and see what makes us tick. This analysis focuses mainly on negative or abnormal behavior. It is less complicated to analyze positive behavior and traits to see what causes more of these things to happen. This process of analyzing our traits is effortful and takes a lot of time, but knowing who we are is a great foundation for self-awareness. In this world of fast food, fast cars, and faxes, many people want a place to go to where they can get away from it all. This often spacious place is the human mind. people have a great deal of ability to sit back and think about the things that affect our lives. Thinking about our lives has brought us to a point of self-awareness. Self-awareness is the knowledge and conscious understanding of who you are, including strengths, weaknesses, goals, ideals, etc. Cultivating self-awareness. In essence, self-awareness is all about understanding yourself. The more you understand yourself, the better you are at adapting the environment to your own needs and recognizing your own unique gifts and talents. Understanding yourself also allows you to know your limitations and where you may be susceptible to distortion, ignorance, and delusions. A high level of self-awareness can potentially reduce the chances for one to get bogged down by hardships and depression. Changes in mood are also detected faster in people with high self-awareness, and they are usually able to quickly adapt to a more positive mindset. Personality and behavior can also be altered in a more desirable fashion with a heightened sense of self-awareness. Self-awareness is the foundation of the mind. It is the result of knowing oneself, and it is often a quality that separates humans from other animals. Since self-awareness is so important, it is only natural that you would want to know yourself as best as you can. In order to achieve a higher level of self-awareness, you will need to reach a deeper level of understanding about your inner world, your behaviors, and your reactions to external stimuli. One could say that this is calling you to be self-aware about your level of self-awareness. Practicing mindfulness. Consciousness is observing your mind and body, a voyage to the source of who we actually are. Consciousness is the finding out laboratory for the universe, Minsky. The earlier two levels of delve into the inner world have centered around cultivating awareness through lively reflection, which nonetheless requires some extent of cognitive reconstruction, a pondering again on previous occasions and analysis. Conversely, mindfulness is solely concerning the observing thoughts as they happen, without turning into concern with them. This might be essentially the most troublesome psychological ability to understand of all, and it's the essence of meditation apply. Mindfulness is not to be construed with meditation alone. For the Zazen, seated meditation place is just the controlled environment in which to observe mindfulness, and the true fruits of the labor are to turn into extra aware in everyday life conditions. The meditation/mindfulness ability is developed using varied techniques. The primary is solely to put aside a particular time throughout the day where one does nothing different but observe thoughts, 30 minutes each morning. Presently, if thoughts are used to constant stimulation, it might prove too great an initial activity, and so a beginner might begin by really brainstorming ideas and potential drawbacks to a given situation. Another method is with mindful actions, where one is paying full attention to the task at hand and the sensations involved in the event. If washing up, one will observe the heat of the water, the shape and texture of the dishes, listening to the sounds, and watching the mind's reactions to having to do the washing up. The undergraduate or recent graduate will take a substantial amount of convincing that this might be of any benefit to him, and I urge him to try it before casting it off. Lastly are the mindfulness questioning and observing exercises, which might make use of concepts such as the 4 points of contemplation. One would take a close observation on a previous occasion when he was angry and seek to notice exactly when the anger arose, what thought patterns occurred in consequence, and what could have been done to evade the anger. The same questioning would then be repeated for focused on one of the emotional steps safety mechanisms. Chapter 4. Reflective Exercises. All the above may seem like effective teaching with a manual attached so the teacher can flick through and know what's needed for each lesson. In such a programmed subject like language education, this might be very effective. However, the best teaching is about motivating students to do their own learning and improve their skills in their own time. Task-based teaching was discussed earlier. However, teachers can set tasks specifically designed to encourage students to practice autonomous reflective learning. This is a common technique used by learners of a second language. Kelly, 1969, carried out a study to investigate how foreign language students are to become independent learners. She concluded that learning starts to speed up when students strategize and appraise their own work and become accustomed to working without a teacher. Reflective depth is a complex set of mental processes. Although it is one activity, not all reflections are the same. Different techniques, such as the use of silence, empathy, and open questions, help to move the process towards the stage of in-depth reflection. Step-by-step guidelines will be helpful to facilitate and improve reflective practice. It's important that we attempt to organize these guidelines into a coherent model that students can follow. An example of a reflection tool is Kinsella's Reflective Cycle, 1994, which gives specific guidance at each stage in the process. Tasks can also be specifically designed to facilitate reflective learning. An example cited in the literature is the use of reflective diaries following clinical practice, Bradbury et al., 1997, or the use of critical incident questionnaires. Simply labeling reflection as important and giving a few accompanying tips will not ensure that reflection is adequately taught or learned. It is often assumed that one knows how to reflect. We all have some vague idea of what it means. In addition, people often practice some form of reflection without being aware of what they are doing. In order to foster the practice of reflection, it is necessary to be more precise about what it involves. Concrete examples of reflection need to be given so that students know exactly what is expected of them. Journaling for self-discovery. The following exercise is a tried and tested method to increased self-awareness and self-understanding. It is the simple process of writing down thoughts and feelings. This exercise has been found to have numerous psychological benefits. By translating thoughts into language, which in turn gives the thoughts form and structure, a record is formed. This record can be used to accurately track thoughts and ideas, to reflect on them at a later date, and to evaluate the logic and underlying assumptions about the thoughts. Writing thoughts and feelings can also be an excellent method of release when emotions are felt so heavily that they are uncomfortable. This method is also beneficial to others who may try to help with the problem. The record is an accurate account of thought or feeling and can be analyzed by others, giving greater insight and understanding. To achieve a greater understanding of the self, we must engage in a continual dialectical process of self-inquiry. To help the reader achieve this chapter offers several exercises designed to enhance self-knowledge and personal growth. In the next sections, we focus on using different introspective techniques as a means to look inside oneself. These techniques form an invaluable means of self-insight for the reader and can easily be implemented into the reader's own personal journey of self-discovery. Engaging in meditation and contemplation. When we think of meditation, it's easy to think of someone sitting alone in a quiet room, having completely empty, serene thoughts. While that's part of it, meditation is much more. Meditation and contemplation are self-regulation practices that focus on training attention and awareness. They help individuals look deep within themselves to understand and transform their thoughts, beliefs, and emotions. Ultimately, meditation and contemplation can bring a person to a state of greater calmness, emotional balance, and a deeper understanding of both the self and the surrounding world. There are many different meditative traditions with various practices. The direction a person goes would depend on personal choice and where they think they'd benefit the most. The practices can greatly vary from the very structured organization and posture of Zen meditation to the simple solitude of a peaceful walk in the woods. Step-by-step instructions are impossible to give due to the wide variety of methods. This doesn't mean it's difficult for a beginner to start. A simple and common starting technique is to sit, eyes closed, relaxed with an alert mind. The individual would then focus on his/her breath to quiet the thought process. This can be difficult, and the person may find their thoughts sporadically racing, but the focus is to simply acknowledge the thoughts and gently redirect attention back to the breath. This practice can be brief, just 5 to 10 minutes a session. Over time, the person may find it easier to remain thought-free and can slowly increase the time. Utilizing visualization techniques. Visualization is a cognitive tool that helps people to plan, rehearse, and anticipate future activities and experiences. Sinkoff, 1996. When used in conjunction with reflective writing, it can help people to develop scenarios about their lives, depicting current, past, and future events. We can use different levels of visualization to help exploration of personal experience. For example, imagining a diagram of past significant life events can help develop an alternative perspective about that event. This may be useful in trying to understand the event better. We can also use higher-level visualization tools, such as guided imagery scenarios, where events take place in controlled, imagined environments. Sneyd and Larue, 1992, explain how this can be used to reduce stress and help people come to terms with their destiny by preparing them to accept inevitable futures. It is a technique which is easy to employ on your own. A fairly recent phenomenon which can be likened to this aspect of visualization is the computer game The Sims. This game allows players to take control of their own character, manipulating its environment and influencing the character's decision-making. The player is effectively creating scenarios and viewing the outcomes of their clients, characters, actions. This is a similar process to reflective visualization, where an individual will create scenarios to help predict the outcome of future action, amend the scenario to achieve the desired outcome, or create scenarios to better understand past events. Creating personal reflection rituals. If someone is looking to create a personal reflection ritual for the first time, it may be helpful to experiment with different ideas and see what works best. It is important that the ritual is done in a quiet place where the person will not be disturbed for some time and allows deep thought on the issue or emotion they are trying to deal with. How someone chooses to do this is up to them and what they think will work best. There is no right or wrong way to create a personal reflection ritual, as it is a highly personal thing. Some common ways that people do this include going for long walks, sitting in a cafe with a coffee for a few hours, going to a quiet area in a park and sitting on a bench, setting aside time each evening to sit in a quiet place in the home, burning incense and playing calming music, or more creative things like painting or writing poetry. We all have our unique ways of dealing with our thoughts and emotions. It is also possible to harness the emotions you are feeling right now and deal with them in a productive way rather than trying to ignore or repress them. Many people find it very helpful to have their own personal reflection rituals that they do whenever they need to clarify their thoughts or deal with a certain emotion or issue. Chapter 5. Unveiling Hidden Wisdom. People can access their intuition through various methods such as meditation, and some use external tools to enhance their own intuitive ability. These methods include using oracles such as tarot cards, astrology, and the I Ching. Intuitive people are often right-brained, non-linear thinkers, and they can further develop this skill by engaging in creative activities. With time, intuition can become a habitual way of knowing and make decision-making very easy. On the other side of the coin, something may have felt very right and easy. This is when something is resonant with us, and it is an experience where we are acting from our center. Using our intuition is effectively asking a question and waiting for an answer. This requires a state of inner quiet so that we can hear the answer. There are many ways that we can access our unconscious wisdom, creativity, and intelligent knowledge. Intuition is the ability to acquire knowledge without inference or the use of reason. This is the gut feeling, which can be accessed at any time, and we have the knowledge to do this all the time. We can all call upon a recent situation where we felt inside that something did not feel right. This feeling was your intuition telling you that something was incongruent with the situation, and it would be wise to learn more about it. Throughout the ages, a common thought has been that our conscience always knows the answer. However, talking to people in today's society often elicits the response that they do not know. What we need to understand is that the answer is always there. We have just become disconnected with our deeper self. Tapping into intuition. Tapping into intuition is about reconnecting with that inner wisdom we all have. but may not always heed. We are by nature intuitive beings, but have been taught to quell that inner knowing in favor of external advice, information, and clarity. In order to move towards a more intuition-guided state, it's essential to examine our relationship with intuition. Consider the last time you had a gut feeling about something. Did you listen to and act on that feeling? Or did you go and ask a few people their opinion, consult a few books, and then make a pros and cons list? There is no right or wrong, but if you habitually take the latter course, you are likely ignoring your intuition. Regaining trust in intuition is a process, and it involves recognizing the value of what our intuitive guidance provides us. All intuition begins with a quiet whisper, and if we don't heed it, it can become louder and more insistent, or conversely, the volume may diminish as it realizes we aren't listening. Intuitive messages also come with a sense of lightness or heaviness, a flow of energy that resonates within our body. When we learn to pay attention to the nuances of intuitive messages, we become skilled in deciphering their meanings. Learning from past experiences. An essential aspect of the evaluation process is the ability to look at the positive and negative aspects of an experience without becoming judgmental about it. This can be achieved by accepting that humans are fallible and that things do not always go as planned. By learning to accept our shortcomings, we can learn to understand them and their causes and work towards preventing them in the future. The evaluation process is essential for extracting lessons about a past experience. This can be done by thinking about a specific experience and the events that it entailed. Then think about what went well and why, and what did not go so well and why. This can reveal patterns in behavior and thinking and can highlight areas for personal improvement. It can also show that there were particularly successful or unsuccessful elements to an experience. With these insights, lessons can be learned that can be used to change or reinforce certain behaviors. This approach can also be enhanced through discussing an experience with another person. This can provide a different perspective on an experience which may not have been considered and can lead to further insights and understanding. The focus of this strategy is to reflect on past experiences in order to gain invaluable insights and understanding about ourselves. There are 3 general approaches to reflecting on past experiences. The first approach is to evaluate what happened in an experience. The second approach is to evaluate the experience against a standard, and the third is to approach the experience with a beginner's mind. Embracing vulnerability. The numerous emotions that accompanied vulnerability have led to the suggestion of it being divided into 2 categories. The first of these categories is a reaction that occurs in response to a work-related transgression which causes a loss of self-esteem or face. The second category occurs when there is disclosure between 2 people and the person who discloses believes there is potential for the relationship to grow and fears that the act of disclosure may damage the possibilities for that to occur. This section will focus on emotion that fits into the second category as understanding. It is crucial to understanding the effects of vulnerability. In order to have a high-achieving organization, there must be employee commitment and the building of relationships that involve continuing in those relationships over a long period of time. High-quality relationships are considered to be a situation where 2 people have a strong interdependence and are ongoing over a period of time. It has been shown that the higher the quality of a relationship, the more an individual is concerned with the potential for the relationship, and the more vulnerable they are if they have concerns about the direction in which the relationship is going. This occurs as one person's actions can have a greater impact on the other, and if there is a stronger interdependence, there is increased potential for affecting the other person. Although the concern of the impact of one's actions on another can result in anxiety, it has been found that it can also lead to greater prosocial motivation, as the fear of letting the other person down can result in an increased effort to achieve the best possible outcome. This type of motivation can ultimately lead to better performance in the work environment. Ego involvement in a task can also increase the chances of experiencing the emotions of vulnerability. This occurs when a person attributes performance on a task to their level of ability or the task was in an area where performance is a judged comparison between individuals. If a person is successful in this instance, there is joy, and if the person is not successful, there is dejection. This is especially prevalent in those with high ability and is often the cause of the dejection being a deterrent to trying the same task again, as the person is concerned that failure would harm the perception of their ability. Although these emotions are generally seen as negative, it has been argued that they lead to greater self-awareness and learning. This is because the negative emotions are viewed as a discrepancy between the current and desired state, and it has been shown that the greater the difference before the attempt to rectify it, the more thorough the attempt and the self-awareness and learning that results from it. Chapter 6. Applying Self-Reflection to Personal Growth. Trevithick, 2005, states in the Code of Ethics that self-identity is central to the development of a professional social worker. At the outset of the degree, the author, likened to that of Trevithick, 2005, felt she had a comfortable understanding of her self-identity and its relation to social work. However, it was not until the commencement of collective group supervision that she realized her own naivety. Self-identity is often closely related to the client's identity. Trevithick, 2005. An experience that stood out for the author was during a case discussion on working with clients who have a mental illness, where her views on mental health and her personal experience led to an emotionally charged argument with a colleague. This critical event came to be understood as the point of learning of the case by another colleague. Reflective practice is described here as intentionally and systematically developing insight and understanding about one's affective and cognitive processes in relation to the context of the professional workplace. Fooke and Gardner, 2007. For one student social worker, the author, taking part in collective group supervision became the catalyst which initiated personal development and reflective practice. Parker, 2005. Fooke and Gardner, 2007. This essay will describe some of the key findings from this experience in relation to self-identity, awareness of surrounding culture/society, the emotional implications underlying learning, control, and power, and the need for further development of alternative modes of reflection. This digging deep approach was not solely derived through the experience of the external placements, but more through various group supervision sessions, facilitated by tutors and with the collaboration of colleagues from within the Institute. Setting meaningful goals. A person who wishes to embark on self-improvement must first ask, what do I want to change about myself? The act of identifying and striving towards a goal is fundamental to the concept of personal growth. One of the most effective models for understanding personal goal setting comes from research conducted on self-regulation, in which goals are defined as the cognitive representations of desired end states. Cantor, 1990. This model outlines the steps to successfully reaching a desired end state, which includes choosing realistic goals. The individual's goal must be achievable given their skill set and resources. Commitment to the goal. Research has commonly shown that individuals are more likely to attain the goals that they are committed to. Valacher and Wegner, 1987. Monitoring progress. The individual must maintain awareness progress towards their goal. Adjusting means to the goal. This involves adaptive changes to the original plan to enhance chances of goal attainment. Staying disciplined. Inevitably, pursuing a difficult objective with payoffs that are distant in the future requires consistent effort. With these elements in mind, goal setting involves an initial decision on a desired end state in specific life domains, some plan for the temporal sequence and duration of events leading to that end state, and a system for monitoring movement towards the end state. Hobbes, 1982. This process can take on many forms, starting anywhere from New Year's resolutions to complex life plans. Regardless of the simplicity or complexity of one's goals, success can often depend on the interplay between one's developing sense of self-identity and the goal. Cultivating self-compassion. Self-compassion is the practice of being kind and gentle with oneself during moments of suffering. Neff, 2003a. has proposed that self-compassion entails three main components. First, it requires self-kindness, that we be gentle and understanding with ourselves rather than being harshly critical. Second, it requires recognition of our common humanity, feeling connected with others in the experience of life rather than feeling isolated by our suffering. Third, it requires mindfulness, that we hold our experience in balanced awareness rather than ignoring our pain or exaggerating it. Self-compassion may be especially relevant to those high in unhealthy perfectionism and low in self-esteem, who tend to be overly critical and judgmental with themselves. It also seems to provide greater emotional resilience in the face of negative events. To a certain extent, self-compassion may be seen as the more mature motivation and strength that grows out of the desire to be free from emotional pain and its negative impact. This, in fact, is a form of self-compassion, recognizing the suffering involved in over-motivation and setting the intention to be free from it. This alternative motivation source may then give enough space to cultivate the kind of attitudes and practice relevant to achieving the desirable goals, yet in a more balanced, self-kind, and considerate way. Building resilience. Resilience can be described as the ability to bounce back from adverse events and move forward in a positive way. It is a concept well embedded within the positive psychology movement and shares close similarities with learned optimism. Thus, it would follow that the skill of resilience can be developed and enhanced with the use of reflective practice and self-reflection. One of the cornerstones of resilience is understanding that it does not simply mean avoiding future adversity. Indeed, it is a proactive move to prepare oneself for future challenges. Resilient people are said to have a strong sense of purpose and meaning, a more positive outlook, are more adept at taking initiative, are more likely to seek alternative solutions to problems, and are physically and emotionally healthier. This would be a very suitable goal for any person to work on within a coaching setting. A combination of reflective techniques with the desire to develop more resilience may unearth some very useful insights and self-motivating tactics for goal setting and achievement. By conducting reflective techniques on past adverse events and the way that they were coped with, one could take note of the methods that were already used to manage such events. This may show a person that they are already more resilient than they think and lead to a greater sense of self-efficacy about dealing with future problems. The simple realization that taking a step back from a difficult situation and taking time to analyze it can be a valuable coping strategy may lead to increased awareness and proactivity in dealing with future events. Chapter 7. Conclusion. Just as we learned that self-reflection is looking at oneself for the purpose of understanding who you are, we can also reflect on our initial understanding of self-reflection. This is known as reflection on reflection, a metacognitive process that can be used to direct our efforts at solving problems in a more effective manner. Jeets, 1997. With greater mastery of the skill of self-reflection and a greater understanding of the problems it can solve, we can use reflective thinking to better understand who we are and change our lives in more positive and meaningful ways. By the process of identifying what we want to know and the use of questions to direct our thoughts, we can use reflection to gain clarity on a complex or confusing problem and then work to enact its potential solution. This can be applied to gaining insight about ourselves and to problems we may face in our everyday lives. Self-reflection and reflective thinking can serve as a means to gauge our understanding of who we are and the changes we are undergoing at a particular time. As we have learned, one can use reflective writing as a personal diary of sorts to capture an accurate image of the self in a time previous. We may use similar methods to understand conflicting thoughts, behaviors, and emotional states. By employing reflective thinking, we may ask ourselves why we have these thoughts and behaviors and use reflective writing strategies to gain a deeper understanding of them. Self-reflection is a concept that is vastly underutilized in Western society. Despite the accessibility of resources, few take the time to truly understand themselves, and the thought of doing so is often overpowered with apprehension, fear, and uncertainty. The lack of a known starting point, tangible goals, and knowledge of what one will find during their introspective journey leave many hesitant or lost among the chaos of their own thoughts. Many are ignorant of the idea that self-reflection can be learned and refined, similar to a skill, with practice. Others simply do not understand what it truly means to be introspective and are thus unable to access their full potential from the enlightenment it can provide. By understanding the depth of self-reflection and the power it contains, we can begin to truly understand and improve our lives in many tremendous ways. Embracing the journey within. The journey of self-reflection that we have embarked on is not meant to be easy. It is, by nature, a difficult and painful process. It is about taking a fearless look at ourselves and challenging our long-held assumptions about who we are, why we are that way, and how we can change. It is a voyage into the unknown, to parts of ourselves that have been hidden, denied, or projected onto others. It is about taking responsibility for who we are and who we want to become. This takes courage as we come face to face with the often disturbing gap between the person we would like to be and the person we actually are. And yet, it is also an incredibly empowering voyage. For in coming to know ourselves, we have the opportunity to make new choices. We can begin to orient our life in a direction that is more fulfilling, that honors our values and utilizes our gifts. This happens not through the exertion of willpower, but as the natural consequence of understanding and self-acceptance. When we truly understand ourselves, change is not something that we have to try to do. It is something that happens effortlessly, like a tree growing in fertile soil. The process of change can be gradual, and sometimes we may feel like we are taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. At these times, it is important to remember the symbolism of this journey. A journey has no fixed endpoint, and each step forward, regardless of its direction, is a step closer to where we want to be. Harnessing the power of self-reflection. Those who reflect in an attempt to understand themselves and to grow as a person also tend to reprioritize their goals. This is because their analysis of past events often leads to the discovery that their previous goals were not truly what they were passionate about, or were goals whose achievement did not actually help them fulfill their desired motivation. Self-reflective people often find that the new goals decided upon or paths to take are directly linked to the motivations they unearth from the analysis of their past behavior. Goal setting and goal-changing linked to the motivation and understanding oneself is a healthy and productive process. It is done by understanding what really is important to a person and comparing that to the current state of affairs in light of past actions and behaviors. By knowing what one wants to achieve and how it is to be done, a person can act in an efficient manner and avoid behavior or activities that do not aid in the accomplishment of the goal. Whether a person has just gone through a difficult situation or is trying to plan out the future, self-reflection is a vital process. Through the act of reflecting upon past events and mulling over the way things could have been done better, people gain insight into their motivations and overall temper. Regardless of if it's done in a diary, thought, or discussion, people comparing the way things have turned out to the way they could have been done generally consider the possible alternatives for their actions and are considering making changes in their habits. By understanding what was done and what the motivation for the action was, an introspective person will be more likely to decide to act in a similar situation or to decide to change their course of action.
If you found this content enriching and valuable, we would be deeply grateful if you could express your appreciation through liking and subscribing. Your support is incredibly meaningful and enables us to continue creating content that resonates with you. For those who think this is a great gift for yourself or for your loved ones, you can find the link in the description.